Hey, Tim, University of Vinyl. Thanks for tuning in again today. I am getting over a cold, so I might sound a little nasally. Um, okay, today I want to talk about finding definitive versions of albums that you love in the wild and being able to kind of settle on them as being your forever copies. I have two examples of albums I want to talk about. They happen to be by the same group. And then I want to talk about delving into the world of Discogs and maybe eBay to a certain extent. I still use both of those platforms if necessary. And I have had issues, particularly with Discogs of late. Very kind of annoying first world problems, I'll admit, but I'm going to talk about those and get into that a little bit. But first, uh, please consider subscribing to the channel if you like the content. Hopefully, you saw my most latest review on the brand new Katie Lied Steely Dan Ultra Premium UHQR release that I think is worth the money. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's a clear upgrade from the original 1975 Ken Dunn recording mastered pressings that are available out there if you can find something clean. Anyway, the UHQR is a clear winner, and congratulations, Chad Kasem and Bernie Grunman. Okay, moving on. You know, the recent, speaking of acoustic sounds, the Atlantic 75 series, it seems to be a huge hit. And believe it or not, I'm going to hold my hand up. I haven't bought one yet. I've just been kind of holding off because I'm not a huge fan of splitting up albums into the double 45 format. And if there are two albums that could really deserve that treatment, they're two kind of long forgotten Genesis albums. Now, that's like sacrilege right there. If you're a Genesis head, you're going to say, Tim, what the hell are you talking about? Those are two of the best Genesis albums. Let's show a record. How about Wind and Wuthering? Released in December 1976. This is the original UK pressing with the very beautiful textured cover. And the cover is really interesting. It doesn't really give you a hint as to what's inside, but very, very subtle. And yeah, make sure if you're looking for this out in the wild that you see the little Mad Hatter logo there on the bottom back cover. But the clear giveaway is, of course, the glorious. Oh, come on, let's get this thing the right side up, shall we? The famous Charisma label with the Mad Hatter with that kind of pinkish hue. And the Mad Hatter is there. I was lucky enough to find this out in the wild for, God, I think it was under $15 when I found this. It's in near mint condition, and it sounds glorious. I have had a U.S. Atlantic pressing, an original U.S. first issue, kind of thin, kind of veiled. Everything here is really, really opened up. And this has got a couple fantastic Genesis songs. The title or the lead track, so the lead track, 11th Earl of Mar, and then What Gorilla, which ends side one, and then of course the amazing song Afterglow, which is ending the album. Afterglow is beautiful, and this is a really, really beautiful record. Afterglow is a Tony Banks composition, but the Phil Collins vocal on that is amazing, and there's some interesting effects going on that Tony Banks coupled with, I think, Mellotron, if I was reading correctly and listening. But there is a lot there's a lot of music on here, over a 33 RPM record. And if there was anything that deserved a double 45 treatment, I think it would be that. It came with a heavy stock inner with all the lyrics. Another really beautiful piece of work. Last week, I actually stumbled across another original UK pressing. This is the second pressing. Came in the original UK, they call these the UK bags. And the blue Mad Hatter Charisma label had been changed. Also, dead mint, like it had never been played. I don't know if you can see that spindle hole, but it's crazy. Never touched. The only issue I have with this one is I do have a little price tag scar, which is very annoying, especially on this beautiful cover. But textured cover as well on the second. And, of course, there's that Mad Hatter logo. So in this case, for Wind and Wuthering, there's the controversial Nick Davis remixes that came out, I don't know, 10 years ago. They're just a shit show if you read about them online. Some people swear by them, others say they're like sacrilege. So I'm not touching a Nick Davis reissue. I'm standing pat, and I don't have a new audiophile reissue, so I'm good. I want to move on to the next record, which is also a Genesis record, and it's the next record in their studio discography. Between and then there were three in Wind and Wuthering. A few things happened. They put out Seconds Out, that double live record that would happen to be the last recorded appearance with Genesis at that point in time. Steve Hackett left after the release of Seconds Out, and then we got And Then There Were Three. A Hypnosis cover, also quite beautiful. And we've got the original Charisma Mad Hatter label here. The only difference here is I found in the wild, here in Fort Collins, a first German pressing. And this thing sounds amazing. I have an original U.S. Atlantic pressing. Again, thin, tinny, kind of veiled. This thing is wide open. And yes, there is a ton of music on this record as well. But remember, Genesis started to switch things up. They were mixing in, slowly but surely, a little more pop elements. Phil Collins was having a little more say in the songwriting and the structures and the arrangements. And, what happened is they had their biggest hit at that point in time with the ending song, Follow You, Follow Me, 3 minutes. Come on, Genesis, can you believe it? A 3-minute, let's call it an uplifting pop song, because that's kind of what it was. It was in the UK charts for, I think, 4 weeks, and their highest charting single at that point in time. So yeah, I'm good on this as well. This is a really beautiful record. Again, it would be interesting to see this broken up, maybe expanded into a double 45, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm good with this. If you've watched me over the years, you know that I kind of get into the details. I dive into the dead wax. I seek specific pressings. And I go all the way down to the stamper number sometimes. One thing I've been looking for is a very, very unique pressing of Van Halen's Fair Warning. Could be my favorite Van Halen record. Dark, dirty, actually bringing in some synthesizer elements on this record This is this is the brown sound that people rave about with Eddie all over this record. It is glorious, produced by Ted Templeman, of course. I am looking for the very first pressing that happened to be done at the Los Angeles pressing plant. And some of those copies have a gold stamp promo stamp on the back cover. And some of those gold stamp promo records are translucent, meaning it's probably a secret Quiax 2 pressing that wasn't branded as Quiax 2 at that point in time. They're hard to find. And I recently reached out to a seller who had one listed, I thought. And, I was actually, I think it was a late night purchase. I might not have followed through with all of my typical protocols with Discogs, asking questions, etc. But what came back was a very, very clean, I'll give you that, a very, very clean, nice example. But it was a repress. It was on the later Warner Brothers label. The one with the kind of shadowed shields that you can maybe see there. And it was not an LA pressing. It was a Jacksonville pressing, which I already have one of those. So I got the record back. I actually posted about this on Instagram. You may have seen it. If you follow me there, please do. I'm keeping the record because it's so clean. I'll flip this thing, maybe trade it in for credit at a local shop. But I guess what you need to do, what you should do, ask questions to that seller. Okay? Hopefully you'll get a reply. Now that's my next Discog story. Let's move on. I'm still looking for the translucent Los Angeles pressing. If anybody has one that you would like to let go for a reasonable price, contact me. Okay, I've made the decision that I need the very first 1980 UK pressing of Zenyatta Mendatta. I have a couple American pressings that sound pretty good. They're in great condition. This one's actually still in the shrink with the hype, which I like. I've actually gone out and picked this up out in the wild here in Fort Collins, Driver 8 Records. Shout out to Charles. This came from his radio DJ huge collection that he wandered into and made a major purchase. The Nautilus, the Super Disc. You know, these get a bad rap, but there are a handful that actually do get a lot of kudos, and this is one. It sounds great. It's a half-mastered. I can't remember who mastered these records, but they were pressed on at KM Records in Burbank. I just did a video on KM Records. Check it out. The Pressing Plants video. But yeah, I want a very first UK pressing, and it has to have Strawberry, the mastering house, in the dead wax. The later UK pressings, some were done at MPO, and others are kind of, you don't know whether there's no indication. So I have identified two pressings on Discogs. One, a seller in the U.S., which I like because I don't have to pay a lot of freight to get it over here. And then another seller, very reasonably priced in the U.K. that I've actually, he has good reviews. I have reached out to both of those folks, and it's been over a week. No reply. So, you think, well, I'm going to ask questions and make sure I get exactly what I'm looking for, and then these sellers don't check their emails. Hello? So the search continues for a UK Strawberry pressing of Zenyatta Mendatta, one of my favorite Police records. You know, the band if you read into this, the band were a little bit upset about that recording, the whole record. There's two instrumentals on it, which kind of tells you something there. They feel they were rushed. They were in the middle of a world tour. They hopped up to the Netherlands and recorded this in all of about 4 weeks' time. And, you know, they were, I'm not sure, I think they were involved in the final mix, but they were off on to, the continuing leg or legs of the world tour. And, a funny story, they actually went back when they were thinking about trying to make their band work. And that greatest hits package came out in '86, and they reworked two songs that happened to be off of Zenyatta Mendata, which is kind of telling. But I tell you what, the grooves, the beats, the grooves, the interaction. This is before they kind of expanded their sound, which would come next, Ghost in the Machine. But this 1980 album is incredible. It's kind of a marker in the sand for Mach 1 of the Police. And it was just the trio, and absolutely amazing record. So much groove, so much soul. And I want to have the best possible pressing that I can find. So that's why I'm having to go to Discogs. That's today's video, just talking about being happy with things that you find out in the wild, and it's such a pleasure when you do. By all means, visit your local shops, visit them regularly if you're constantly looking for arcane pressings like yours truly. And, if you have to go to Discogs or eBay, do a lot of research, ask a lot of questions. Maybe you'll get an answer. Take care, everybody.